Hawaiian Rare Plant Program is part of the Lyon Arboretum, which is a University of Hawaii botanical garden. Our role in Hawaiian conservation is to do the rescue and recovery work for all the Hawaiian native plants. And primarily, they're the ones that are the most endangered or threatened to go extinct. So we do tissue culture work. We use what is called micropropagation to try to make clones or save plants and plant tissue to nurture them on in a controlled environment. But we also have a seed program, which we collect seeds and store them until there's a place and time where they can be planted out. So our partners in Hawaii are mostly the government agencies, the state as well as the federal government units. They are also our primary funders for the project, where we get most of our funds to run our lab and staff our programs so that we can do our work. We have a lot of support from the private community also, who donate funds to have, for instance, our new lab that is going to be built is, most of the funding has come from private donations.
After a couple months, the spores will grow into something that looks like this.
The species that we're working on is actually called Kanaloa, Kaho'olavensis, and there's actually only one plant left in the wild, and it's on Kaho'olawe, which is inaccessible, and their thinking is there, but they're not going to verify it yet. But they think that it's the last, and after it dies, there will be no more in the world because it's like only one of its kind. And so we have plants that are in cultivation. They're growing in a nursery, seedlings from this last plant. And so they're trying to go and we're trying to propagate them. So hopefully we can keep it going. But it was the only one that was left. So yeah, it's very sad. Yeah. And we have a lot of species that are just like that. I mean, there's so many species here because we work with all the endangered species. So there's a lot of plants that are really close to that brink of extinction. So it's really difficult. Yeah, very sad when one dies. Yeah, it's the end. So.
I talked to the guy. It's dead.
Yeah, they're not officially saying it's dead. The meeting I went to.
Literally, I talked to the guy like yesterday.
We have two facilities that we use. This is our lower elevation one. We have a higher elevation nursery in the Waianae Mountains. A lot of what's happening here is either direct germination of seeds, germination trials from the state seed lab, or an intermediate area between the tissue culture lab and restoration projects that would be happening in the mountains. So plants that are coming from the tissue culture lab and the test tubes need to get hardened off and acclimatized. They can't just be planted because it's very soft, weak material directly into the forest. So we need to have an intermediate area. Pretty much the whole program is really rare and special things. This thing right here jumps to mind, Cyania truncata. It's extremely rare. I think there's only a couple plants left in the wild. It's a special plant in Hawaii because it's got unique mutualism with a bird, that the beak fits into the flower perfectly. The Hawaiian word for this plant is called haha. Here are all seedlings of that. So there's more plants right here than there is in all the entire mountains put together. And it's on the brink of extinction. Our homework, just to make sure that they have the best chance to survive, and we set them up for success.
So right now I'm just taking care of some of the baby seedlings right now. These came out of our seed lab where we propagated them from little tiny seeds. So we're raising them up until we're big enough that we can restore them back out into the wild.
Hawaii is really a special place. It is still where evolution is still occurring. There's so many species that are just known and live in just Hawaii alone. About 1,400 are only known from Hawaii. And because of pressures of urban pressures or agriculture and new invasive plants and diseases coming in, slowly the native species are declining and will become extinct. Many have become extinct already. So I think there is a lot of work for us to do to try to save these species, especially when I think they are the ones that make Hawaii so special and what people recognize as what is Hawaii. So it's not only the animals and the people, but it's also the plants that live in the mountains and around us here too. So that's our job, is try to save these species or Hawaiian plants from going extinct. And that's where we invest a lot of our time and effort in trying to preserve what is Hawaii.